Hey, I'm Sven Masterson, one of the co-founders and principal mentors of the Mentoring Men community. And in this video, I want to talk to you about the one thing that is probably destroying or undermining your marriage or romantic relationship more than every single other thing. Now, that's a pretty bombastic statement, isn't it? But if you stick with me, I hope that you will get some illumination and some insight. This isn't clickbait. This is really seriously the one thing. But to explain that one thing, I need to tell you a little bit more context. People reach out to us in our community because they're in some sort of relationship distress. These are men who oftentimes just heard some of the worst news in their life, maybe something like, my wife said she wants a divorce, she wants a separation, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I need space is another common one. Emotional affairs, physical affairs, and lastly, sexless marriages. Men reach out to us every day from all over the world because they find themselves in this exact spot and something in our videos resonates with them. Now, you'll not find any shortage of information about these topics on the internet, and usually the prescription for these things is generally some kind of combination of the same things. More communication, talk to your partner, tell them how you feel, go to the gym, lose weight, stop drinking. And all of these things play a role in fixing or addressing what's going on in a relationship, but none of them are generally the cause. And so in this video, I want to talk about the real thing that causes a relationship to break down, especially marriage, and especially after several decades of marriage. This same thing is also the root cause in, I would say, 98% of sexless marriages. Those are marriages where people have no physical intimacy, or they do so 10 times or less per year. That is about 25% of marriages from the stats we've been able to garner. And we talk to men all the time who have not had any physical intimacy with their partner in decades. 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades. I know there's men that have gone longer than that, but we talk to men in all these circumstances, and they're all horrible. And every man has a reason that he thinks these things are happening. And so they're generally all misguided. And I'm not trying to say that as kind of a know-it-all. I'm explaining that when we get to the root of what's going on in a relationship, there's a common denominator behind all dysfunctional romantic relationships. And I'd say all dysfunctional relationships between humans. And that is this one single word I will call enmeshment. Enmeshment means that in a relationship, I have lost my understanding of what is me and what is you. And when two people are in a long-term relationship, they can grow more and more and more enmeshed. Now, I believe the reason people do this is actually from a good place, meaning what people want is they want unity, they want oneness, they want togetherness. But because we tend to start relationships like romantic relationships and marriage early in life, earlier than we have matured, we bring a whole lot of our immaturity into those relationships. And because we come into a relationship as a person that's immature, that's not yet formed some kind of fundamentals about who we are, we tend to come in with a lot of expectations and needs and dependencies. And those put us in a position of enmeshment. Now, I'm a visual guy. I'm in my workshop here because this is where some of the stuff I want to use to talk today is located, but also because I want you to know I'm a real guy. We're real people. We don't have an elaborate sales and marketing funnel, nothing like that. I want you to see that there's dust in my shop. I'm cold. I'm wearing nothing extravagant, right? We're just real men talking to real men. And in this video, it's about enmeshment, right? So you're going to have to pardon the cold vapor coming out of my face today while we talk about enmeshment. So I'm out here because this is where I keep my PPE, right? My personal protective equipment. In today's video, I want to use these vinyl or nitrile gloves to talk about enmeshment. When I'm enmeshed in a relationship, I want you to picture that I'm stuck like this with the other person, right? Now, I'm going to get a little further away so it becomes harder to tell. what exactly is what? Who's who, right? Which hand is which? In an enmeshed relationship, the problem is each person is having an emotional experience of their life, but they're uncertain about the why and the where. And so in enmeshment, you're feeling a lot of things, as is human, but you believe the cause and the reason is outside of you in the other partner. And so what ends up happening is you go about your day, you're irritated, you're frustrated, you don't feel good, you don't like how life is going, you feel put upon, you feel pressured, you feel all these things, and you're thinking, man, it's that other person in the relationship. And they're doing the same thing. This is the nature of enmeshment. It's we have lost sight of what is me and what is my partner. And enmeshment begins to create emotional hostility in the relationship. It shows up as first anger, frustration, then it grows into things like contempt and bitterness and malice. Sometimes it produces jealousy and envy. It's all these nasty things. And it's all the same pattern of a human being experiencing an inner disturbance that they believe has an external cause. In this case, the other person. And so in a relationship, what happens is people are frustrated. They do not feel good, and they're feeling the consequences of this relational enmeshment. And what fixes or what begins to heal a broken relationship is actually a process called differentiation. That means you start to once again remember, oh, I am me, my partner is them, and we're not the same thing. We can be together, but it's very important that we don't confuse self with the other person. Now, why? Why have we started to confuse self with the other person to begin with? Remember, I talked about we come into a relationship as immature. Another way I would describe that, a more accurate way, is to say we come into a relationship insecure. And when I'm insecure, because this is how we start life, we gain security, at least we are convinced that we can gain security, by making other people pleased, other people happy, other people content. And so this is what draws us into this emotional enmeshment and entanglement with one another, where we have come to believe that I am responsible for this person's inner well-being, and they are responsible for mine. And so when I have an inner disturbance, it's their fault. When they have an inner disturbance, it's my fault. And so in this context, a lot of people go to places like marriage counseling and therapy, and they're saying to their practitioner, help, help, we're really miserable, we can't figure out what to do. And marriage therapy, depending on what it's like, just tries to create this like brokered peace. Now, I'm not speaking disparagingly of marriage therapy. I'm just kind of talking about a general tactic for helping people in enmeshment oftentimes is not super effective, because it tries to wedge a little room and say, now, John, can't you see Jane has a need? Can't you be sensitive to that? Can you try to be more sensitive and meet that need? And John says, because he's a compassionate man, yeah, I could see that. I want to help her out. I'm really tired, but I'll try harder. And so then the practitioner will turn to Jane. Jane, can't you see that John feels disrespected? That John feels unseen and unappreciated? And Jane, because she's a compassionate, loving woman, says, yeah, I could see that, and I have compassion for that, and I'll try harder. And so you have people that are like, they're not as enmeshed, but they still feel responsible for one another's well-being. This is why it's bankrupt. These same people, mark my words, will end up either parting the relationship, or they'll come right back into this in another season when they get re-enmeshed again, because they're entangled emotionally. They have decided to take on the responsibility for someone's inside life. I want you to think about how absolutely crazy it is that something inside my life should be managed by my partner. Do we not have bodies that are atomic, that require nobody else reach in and squeeze our heart to keep it beating, that no one has to blow air into our lungs to keep us alive? I mean, when we do that, do we not call that cardiopulmonary resuscitation? Is it not a medical emergency when somebody is about to perish? And yet we have kind of made this a normal thing in relationships that somehow we're supposed to be on the hook for one another's inside well-being, their internals, their emotional well-being. When in reality, what it is all humans are just insecure. And we can't solve our insecurity by other insecure people trying to be responsible for that. But that's exactly what happens in a relationship. And here you are, enmeshed, emotionally enmeshed and miserable. And so what is really the problem here is insecurity in each partner has made them dependent upon the other partner telling them they're okay. So now you have two insecure people who ultimately are depending on one another for their sense of security. Now you have different attachment styles, and this is what we run into in our practice. You have the pursuer distancer. You have the person who's saying, get away from me, right? This is Jill in this case, or Jane, and she's like, I need space. And John's like, but I'm anxious. And he's trying to re-enmesh because he's scared. He's frightened. He's anxious. This is also called the anxious avoidant dynamic, right? And so we run into this a lot, and this is where a lot of women are feeling this, and they say to their man, I need space. And what they're trying to do is pry that enmeshment out, because they instinctively start to recognize this is not feeling good. I want to love this person. I want to be compassionate, but I feel completely pressured. I feel overwhelmed. I feel put upon. Now, it's not that men never are in this role. They are. I'm just talking about one specific dynamic that leads to the I need space. I need to find myself. It's oftentimes from this feeling of enmeshment and a woman feeling smothered by the man's need. This is oftentimes what leads to some affairs, right? And it's not the man's fault. It's that the woman is feeling just her side of the disillusionment from being enmeshed, and it's uncomfortable. The reality is the man is unhappy too. He just chose to go about that by being frustrated and angry instead of cheating, for example. But either way, the same things lead both partners to this disillusioned place of enmeshment. When a partner is in a sexless marriage, it's oftentimes the same thing too, that the man is so concerned about the emotional, what would you call it, equilibrium with his partner, that he will not actually stand up for himself. He'll suppress his desire. He'll try to bury his sexuality underneath of other things, because it's more important to that guy, to be honest, to remain married and feeling okay. He doesn't want to upset the apple cart, and that's a big problem. 1 second, there's people coming in the door. So what do we do here, right? What is the real issue? The real issue, brothers and sisters watching, in enmeshment is that each partner, like I said, is insecure. They don't know who they are, and they're afraid to be themselves. And so they've created this thing, this is why I have gloves on, that we call the ego, right? I call it the ego. And the ego in this case is the version of ourselves that we believe other people will accept. It's a very complex structure of ways of being, behaviors, attitudes, manipulations, control tactics that we try to use to solve our insecurity. And so we come into our long-term relationship, like marriage, with an ego, and our partner comes in with an ego. And we're trying, remember, what we want is oneness. We want unity. We want togetherness. But look, we've got this thing on, this nitrile sterile glove called the ego, and we're emotionally enmeshed, which is not the same thing as union and togetherness. And so what do? This is the thing that's causing your marriage relationship to be sour. Here's what we do at Mentoring Men. We pry a guy out and we say, brother, you've got to stop waiting for your partner to change for you to be happy. You don't actually have a partner problem. You have an ego problem. And so we take men off to the side and we start to show them a little bit about how to be free of the ego. Now, we don't tell men to get rid of the ego. That's not possible. But we show them hey, there's a real you underneath of that ego, right? We're helping him to be himself in the relationship, his naked heart self, just the person who was always there, the person he was born as, who was okay, who didn't need a thing in the world, who was born as a whole, complete individual, but who learned from insecurity to cover himself with this thing we're going to call the ego. And so slowly, we show this man how to live outside of the ego. Again, we can't show him to rid himself of it because it's an artifact of the human frame. But we show him how to be authentic, how to be a secure man, how to be confident in who he is, how to be true to what his desires are, to say, you know what, I am a sexual being. I enjoy sex. I'm not going to apologize for that anymore. I am a person that unabashedly loves deeply, right? And we help a guy identify all of his core, who he really is underneath of the ego. Now, what happens now is enmeshment could still try to happen, but it's very clear who's who. You see the contrast now between the man and the woman? But also, more importantly, this is warm, right? This is tactile. This is sensual. This is real. This isn't this sterile thing called the ego. And so when we help men in our community through our mentoring program to become authentic, to become secure, now they can experience differentiation. And so rather than the man waiting for her to go first, which is what creates a sense of limbo, all kinds of men come to us in a sense of limbo, and it's because they're enmeshed, and they believe because they're enmeshed that the answer to their feelings and pain is in their partner. That's the nature of enmeshment. So when we peel a guy out of that, we say, look, we're going to show you how to be differentiated in a community of men who are going to give you the space to explore that, to find your authentic self. We're not going to judge you. We're not going to belittle you. We're going to put you in a community and on a journey that you could discover you could discover this ego and its lifelessness. See, there's nothing there, right? And you can see just how bad that ego's been messing you up. And then what happens is we've helped this guy renew, we've helped him to connect again, and we're helping him to feel inspired, right? And empowered. And that's what we do at Mentoring Men. We renew, we connect, we inspire, and then we empower. And when that man goes back in a relationship, all is actually still not yet what it should be, because his partner, remember, has lived in the same enmeshment as he has. And so she's got to get used to this. What is this thing over here? It feels it feels warm, actually. It feels authentic and real. And slowly what ends up happening in these relationships, not always, but most of the time, a woman starts to say, I like this authentic thing. I think I'm going to try that. I'm going to be a little bit more authentic. And then slowly, hey, maybe a little bit more, right? And then at some point, and this is what frees you from the disillusionment and power struggle stage of the relationship and sends you into the acceptance stage, is you have two human beings who are authentically themselves and who are not seeing their insides as being caused by the other person. They know themselves to be whole. They know themselves to be complete. They feel warm. They feel good, right? They feel tactile. And now they can come back together and they can have that oneness, that unity that's really, truly real. This is the acceptance stage of marriage, when partners have truly said, you know what, I fully and totally accept me. And I fully and I totally accept you. Would you like to go on together in that frame of personhood and relationship? Yeah, let's do it. And this is how you get to the good stuff in a relationship. This is what I would suggest we're meant to have, but these ego things and our insecurity have been blocking us for decades. And yet I find consistently with men in our community, the more we help a man do this, it helps him to create an environment where his lover, his partner, can do the same. She can have the same experience. You can get two people who feel good in their own skin, and that is the basis for really to differentiate, and from a differentiated place to choose one another again, but not this time in an entangled, enmeshed way, but in a way of recognizing that each person is a whole and distinct being. They're autonomous. They have their own inside experience that they must be responsible for. And yet we can come together in our singleness in togetherness. This is interdependence, where you have still two very atomic things, just like my hands. There's no amount of me putting these hands together that will fuse them together, but they can work together, they can be together, they can share warmth, they can share touch, they can share intimacy and closeness. And this is what we're after. But to do that, we have to get out of the enmeshment stage. And in Mentoring Men, like I said, what we do is, rather than trying to broker some sort of mutual pulling away, let's do it at the same time, which we don't believe works. We take the man out. We don't take him out of the relationship. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. We don't encourage men to leave and things like that. We just help him to turn his focus away from the relationship, right? If I had another person here with another hand, I would have them reach their hand into the screen over here and grab my ego-covered hand and go over here and take it off and bring it back. That's kind of what we try to do, which is to help a man to kind of do his differentiation work. Again, because it's differentiation, you don't need anybody else's permission to differentiate, or it would be enmeshment. Do you see this? You understand this difference? And so that is the thing that's hurting relationships, enmeshment. And the thing that actually begins to heal relationships is to become differentiated. And to become differentiated is a process. This process could take 6, 12, 18 months. It really depends on just how willing a man is to focus on him. Because he's enmeshed, he wants to look at his partner. But if we can get that man to stop looking at her, she's not the issue. You have to have your own inside work. You have to do your own ego work. You have to learn to become authentic. The faster a man can experience that, the faster he can return in his wholeness and his authenticity to the relationship and begin to create a force for change in the relationship. I hope you have found this video helpful. I hope you have been gracious to my rough circumstances here in my dusty shop with who knows what my stickers say in the background and whatnot. But I hope you have felt seen, that you've been inspired with some new perspective that you can take back into your relationship and begin to put into practice. If you have found this video helpful, it would mean the world to us if you would hit a like button, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. I hate saying that in videos, but the reality is YouTube does favor messages when people respond to them, and people won't see our message nearly as much if people don't actually share or interact or engage with our content that way. So that's my first little spiel, and that's all I'll say about that. The second bit I want to say is, if you have found this helpful and you're interested as a man in this differentiation process, we exist as a community to help men to discover who they are. We're actually not about relationships. We're about the well-being and wholeness of men. It just happens to be when we do that and we help men kind of shed this or understand his ego and learn not to live in it, and improves every area of his life, most of all his relationships. And so that's what we do. And we do that in very curated mentoring processes that last between 6 and 24 months. And I would love to explain that to you or talk to you more about it. Or I would love just to have a conversation with you about what's going on in your life. And so below in the YouTube video description, you're going to see a bunch of links. You'll see a link, first of all, to set up a one-on-one call with myself or another one of the mentors on Mentoring Men. That's not a sales call. That's just a call to talk to you about your relationship, how these ego things are showing up for you. What kind of circumstances do you have? How is enmeshment hurting you? And how would you like to differentiate? That's the first thing I can offer you. The second, there'll be another link down there that you can explore our community. Our community offers this at lots of levels. We have very kind of introductory, entry-level community involvement where you can differentiate. It's just going to be a slow boil because it's an exchange of investment for how targeted that journey is. And so we have a community as a man that you can join. It's $25 a month. There's the sales pitch, okay? And then if that's not enough for you and you want to explore this more detailed, in-depth mentoring experience that we have where we do those 4 things, renew, connect, inspire, and empower, you can look at that below too. That's called our Journey to Masculine Greatness program. The first part of that is a 6-month mentoring experience called the Renewed Masculine Man. We offer that. We have lots of ways to help you. And again, I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to actually encourage you. I'm here to do those 4 things that I mentioned. And however we can help you with that, we would love to. Lastly, if you just want to talk, you just want to send a comment, maybe you don't want to say it on YouTube, I would also invite you to just email me at Sven, S-V-E-N, at mentoring.men, and I will look forward to seeing your name in my inbox. With that, I'll wish you the best on your journey to differentiate. I hope to see you on the other side of this screen sometime, and I'll wish you a good day. Take care.